King John's reign began in 1199, but he was deeply unpopular from the start. Known for cruelty and greed, he lost lands in France and demanded high taxes. John clashed with the church, and the Pope punished England. The barons rebelled, forcing him to sign Magna Carta. Civil war erupted, and John became a king on the run. In his desperate flight, he lost his treasure and nearly lost England itself. King John's treasure was more than gold. It was the heart of his power. The royal treasury traveled with him: crowns, scepters, holy relics, and a fortune in silver coins. These riches squeezed from his people, paid his mercenaries, and kept his fragile rule alive. The treasure was guarded day and night, a moving fortress of wealth. It included not just jewels, but state papers and royal records, the machinery of monarchy. Losing it would be catastrophic, a blow to the king's authority and England's future. The treasure train was a long, lumbering convoy of wagons and pack horses, watched over by armed guards. In a time of civil war, a king could never leave his fortune behind. This was the wealth of a nation, concentrated in a few heavy chests. As John marched across England, he carried not just gold, but the fate of his crown. The treasure was a burden heavy. Vulnerable and essential, every mile was a risk. Every river crossing a gamble. The king's enemies wanted it. The land itself seemed to conspire against him. John's treasure was more than money. It was his last hope, and soon it would become his greatest loss. The next chapter of his story would be written, not in gold, but in mud and water. The stage was set for disaster. The king's fortune was about to vanish, and with it, the future of England would hang in the balance. The Wash, a vast bay of emerald flats and shifting sands on England's east coast, was a deadly shortcut at low tide. It looked safe, but the ground was treacherous, and the sea returned with terrifying speed. In October 1216, King John, sick and desperate, sent his treasure-laden baggage train across the Wash. The king himself took the safer inland route, but his treasure was ordered to risk the sands. The convoy was massive and slow, weighed down by chests of gold and royal regalia. Drivers urged their animals forward, racing the tide. Every creak and shout echoed across the empty flats. The crossing began a long line of wagons inching across the bay. The animals strained, the wheels sank, and the horizon was watched with dread. The sky was gray, the wind cold, and the sense of danger was everywhere. It was a race against nature, with the king's fortune at stake. The Wash had claimed lives before, but never a treasure like this. The gamble was enormous. The king's fate and England's rested on a single perilous crossing. The tide was coming, and disaster was only moments away. The greatest royal treasure in England was about to disappear. Disaster struck in an instant. The tide surged back faster and higher than anyone expected. Panic erupted, men shouted. Horses reared, and the convoy dissolved into chaos. Heavy wagons, already mired in mud, were trapped as water rushed in. The animals harnessed to their loads were doomed. Drivers abandoned everything, scrambling for their lives. Chests of gold and jewels tumbled into the churning water. The crown jewel symbols of monarchy vanished beneath the waves. The entire royal fortune was swallowed by the sea. Within minutes it was over. The Wash was empty, the treasure gone. Survivors staggered to shore empty-handed and in shock. They had lost everything: the king's wealth, the kingdom's hope. The news would break John's spirit and change England forever. The Wash had claimed its greatest prize. The king's enemies would soon hear of his ruin. The loss was total, a catastrophe for the monarchy. The treasure was gone, buried in mud and legend. The tide had won, and England would never be the same. The story of the lost treasure was just beginning. The loss was so complete, people whispered of a curse. John had defied the Pope, stolen from the church, and made countless enemies. Many believed God had punished the greedy king, using the sea as his instrument. Legends grew. Some said the treasure was guarded by ghosts of drowned men and animals. Others claimed a curse doomed anyone who found it. The treasure was tainted by John's sins, forever bound to tragedy. These stories help people make sense of the disaster. A king's power wiped out by nature seemed unthinkable. The curse became a moral lesson. Greed and tyranny would always be punished. The legend wove itself into English folklore. Even today, the Wash is seen as mysterious, hiding secrets beneath its shifting sands. The idea of a cursed treasure adds to its allure. The story became more than history. It became myth pride. Punishment and the supernatural shaped the tale. The curse ensured the treasure would never be forgotten. It transformed a king's folly into a timeless warning. The lost treasure became a symbol of fate's power, and the legend only grew with every retelling. News of the disaster broke. King John, already sick with dysentery. He lost the will to fight. The treasure's loss meant no money for his army, no symbols of royal power. John arrived at Newark Castle defeated and dying. His enemies closed in his support, crumbled. Without gold, he couldn't pay mercenaries or win the war. His authority was shattered. On his sickbed, John dictated his will, leaving a divided kingdom to his 9-year-old son Henry. The Plantagenet dynasty's future was in jeopardy. On October 18th, 1216, just days after the Wash disaster, John died at 49. He was buried far from Westminster, his reign ending in misery. His death changed the war. Many barons, having fought against John, now rallied behind his son. The treasure was lost, the king was dead, and England's fate hung in the balance. The monarchy was at its weakest. The country faced an uncertain future. John's failures cast a long shadow. The legend of the lost treasure would outlive the king himself. England would struggle to recover from the chaos he left behind. John's death didn't end England's crisis. Civil war raged on with Prince Louis of France controlling London. The new King Henry III was just 9 years old. The royal treasury was gone. Sunk in the Wash, the monarchy was broke and vulnerable. William Marshal, a legendary knight, became regent and reissued Magna Carta to win over the barons. This move united the country behind the child king. The loss of the treasure left the crown financially crippled. New regalia had to be made, and the government struggled to raise funds. The disaster haunted Henry's early reign. Slowly, Marshal and the Royalists turned the tide, defeating the French and rebels at Lincoln in 1217. Prince Louis was forced to abandon his claim and return to France. The Plantagenet dynasty survived, but only just the kingdom was scarred by war and loss. The lost treasure became a symbol of how close England came to collapse. The monarchy would never forget the lesson of John's downfall. The Wash disaster was a wound that took decades to heal. England's future was rebuilt from the ruins of a king's greatest mistake. For centuries, King John's lost treasure has captivated treasure hunters and historians alike. The Wash's shifting sands hide its secrets well. Countless searches using everything from old maps to modern technology have failed to find a single verifiable piece. The exact route of John's baggage train remains a mystery. The treasure could be buried anywhere in a vast, ever-changing landscape ground penetrating. Radar and magnetometers have found shipwrecks and debris. But not the royal hoard still. The hunt continues. Every ancient coin found near the Wash sparks new hope and speculation. Was it dropped by a fleeing soldier? Is the treasure closer to shore than we think? Each discovery reignites the legend. The search is about more than gold. It's a quest to touch history. The Wash guards its secrets fiercely. The lost treasure remains elusive, fueling dreams and debates. The legend endures, inspiring new generations to seek what the sea has hidden. The hunt for King John's treasure is a story with no end. King John's lost treasure endures because it's more than a tale of gold. It's a story of ambition, disaster, and the power of nature over kings. The mystery of the lost fortune lets us dream. What secrets might it reveal? John's failure feels like poetic justice. A greedy king undone by fate. The legend warns against arrogance and greed. Its greatest power is its mystery, because the treasure is still lost. The story never ends. Each generation imagines what lies beneath the mudding. Is it a cursed hoard or a puzzle waiting to be solved? The legend lives on in our imagination. The curse of King John's treasure is really the power of a good story. For over 8 centuries, it's blended history. Myth and drama, the past is never tidy. Full of unanswered questions and enduring mysteries. Somewhere under the Wash, the treasure lies silent. It's a testament to a failed king and a legend that refuses to die. The story is England's, and it belongs to all who wonder. As long as the treasure remains lost, the legend will live. And so the king's greatest loss becomes history's greatest mystery.